Dear Novelists and Novelistas, welcome to Mile 2 of Novel Marathon, the 2023 edition. Novel Marathon is a self-directed class. Like you, my goal is to write a novel in a year. What do you say we'll do it together? You can find the assignments we worked on previously at the link in the show notes. Here are the readings and assignments to work on for the next 2 weeks. In the One Year Novelist, we'll be reading chapters 3 and 4. In Story Genius, we'll be reading chapter 5. Finally, in Refuse to be Done, we'll be reading pages 7 through 13. The assignment has 4 parts. Part 1 is about accountability. Check in with the 3 people you told that you're writing a novel. Let them know how it's going. Part 2 is about motivation. Write a paragraph about why you want to write a novel. What's driving you to write a long-form work of fiction with all the work that entails? Part 3 is about transforming your initial idea into a powerful what-if question. For that, please reread Chapter 3 in Story Genius and do the exercise on page 50. See if you can transform your story idea into a powerful what-if question. Part 4 is about conflict. Revisit your protagonist and antagonists, if you have one, goals. Are they directly opposed to each other? If not, what can you do to sharpen the conflict and create a formidable opponent or obstacle for your main character? Write down 2 or 3 obstacles that would throw a significant wrench into your main character's path. Finally, part 5 is about plot, aka the story spark, aka the inciting incident. From the One Year Novelist, quote, "Think about your protagonist's goal, the one that will take the entire novel to reach. When's the first time something significant happens that makes your protagonist start moving toward that goal? Or that blocks that goal? Write it down. That's your story spark." End quote. Here's a little more context which might help you. Let's start with the part of the assignment that's about your motivation, namely the question, why do you care about this story? This exercise is designed to help you zero in on your personal reasons for telling this particular story and why it excites you. This is important. You have to care about your story enough to get through a full year of completing a book, a true marathon. Sit down and take a minute to write down your reasons for writing this novel. It's important to capture the source of your passion, the drive that draws you to the page. It will nourish you through many months of writing. On to this question. Can you transform your idea for a book into a powerful what-if question? Here's an example from page 51 in Story Genius. What if a woman who has spent her whole life hedging her bets against love of people, of things, of dogs, is forced by grief into a relationship with a dog that proves to her too late the error of her ways? Can you write a similar what-if statement for your book? You want it to have context, a surprise, and conflict which will lead to consequences and provide fire for the protagonist's inner struggle. The point of this exercise is not to summarize your whole novel for strangers, but to guide you to the places where you have to dig deeper in order to discover the specifics that drive your protagonist's struggle. If you have an unsuspecting protagonist and a powerful what-if situation, you have the 2 most important components of a strong story engine. This will allow you to discover what your novel is about and write what Matt Bell calls an exploratory draft. So, why do you need goals and obstacles? In chapter 1 of Story Genius, Cron talks about why human beings evolved to love stories. Quote, "We don't turn to a story to escape reality, we turn to story to navigate reality." End quote. Stories were the original way in which people learned about social relationships and the cost of certain actions. Stories, according to Lisa, are the original virtual reality, a place to vicariously experience adventures and simulate the effects it would have on us. She writes, "A story is about how the things that affect someone in pursuit of a difficult goal and how that person changes internally as a result." The someone is the protagonist, and as we'll see, everything that happens in the book will get its meaning and emotional weight based on how it affects her, not in general, but in pursuit of a difficult goal. The difficult goal is, at its most basic, what's known as the story problem. All stories revolve around how someone solves a single, escalating problem they can't avoid. After all, if it were easy, it wouldn't be a problem and there wouldn't be a story. It's not merely a surface problem either, but one that causes the protagonist to struggle with a specific internal conflict at every turn, so that at the end, she sees things quite differently than she did at the beginning. That, my friends, is what the story is actually about. How your protagonist's external dilemma, aka the plot, changes her worldview. Lisa concludes, at its most basic, a story is about how someone grapples with a problem they can't avoid and how they change in the process. The events by themselves mean nothing. It's about what those events mean to someone that has us compulsively turning pages. That's why the protagonist is the portal through which we enter the novel. This is why all stories are, by definition, character-driven, and why the main character must come first. It doesn't matter what genre you're writing in, literary, historical, speculative fiction, potboiler, or somewhere in between, the protagonist is the wellspring from which the plot will eventually flow. So, before you can begin to figure out what the story is, let alone the plot, it stands to reason at first you really need to know who your protagonist is. So, let's picture your protagonist one more time. On page 62 of Story Genius, this is how Lisa describes the moment just before your novel starts. Chances are, at this moment, your protagonist feels that he has things under control. His life might not be exactly the way he wants it, but it's working. Life up to now has taught him what to expect, and he's pretty much figured out how to safely navigate it. What he doesn't know is that you're going to make sure his expectations aren't met, catapulting him out of the safety zone into a world beyond his trusty map. But remember, the novel isn't simply about how he navigates that uncharted world. It's about the quest he spent most of his life suiting up for. He just doesn't know it yet. End quote. Finally, let's talk about what's the inciting incident in your story. What's the moment that gets the ball rolling on your plot? In Story Genius, Lisa Cron talks about starting your book as close to the story spark or inciting incident as possible. The inciting incident is the event that sets your story in motion. If you think back on your character's overarching goal, the story spark is usually something that either starts moving your protagonist towards that goal, or it's a significant obstacle they have to overcome. In a murder mystery, the inciting incident is the discovery of the dead body. In a romantic comedy, the inciting incident could be the meet cute, the moment the two fated lovers first lay eyes on each other. So ask yourself, what happens in your novel that sets the plot in motion? And that's it. As always, you should expect to take 2 weeks to work through these questions. All the key info, the readings, and more detail on the exercises is available via a newsletter that comes out a few times a month. It's free and you can subscribe to it by going to novelmarathon.com/newsletter. Good luck with the readings and assignments. I look forward to checking in next time to see how it's going. Until then, happy reading, happy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.